I know that there's a huge sovereignty movement out there that's in some kind of hallucination belief that they're going to take over an instrument that's certainly not theirs. So they must believe they really are a member of a legal system in order to have such a superlative, privilege. But we're here talking about the Bible in truth, and I know a lot of these sovereignty movements, they talk about God, but they're not talking about salvation through Jesus Christ. They're not talking about him being a king. They're not talking about that sovereignty of God's kingdom. They're talking about their own pocketbooks and how they're going to basically grab some pot of gold at the end of an illusionary rainbow. These certificates are very similar to something when I was researching in the past, and I put videos out on this. And at the time of the rising of the population of people becoming true Christians, there was a problem in the Roman Empire, and they didn't know what to do with this movement. And in fact, the early Christians were selling their belongings, selling their estates. They were coming out, not going in, and then they were distributing whatever wealth or what they had to those in need. Certainly much different than the Christians we're seeing today. That is not the movement. It's to store up treasures on earth and just blend in with the rest of the legalists that are out there and try to pretend that you're a Christian. So the certificates that were only issued in the Roman Empire uniquely were certificates of libelli, or they were called certificates of confirmation to pagan religious practice. So I'm going to read you just a little excerpt out of an historical documentation on this subject matter. And it says, during Decian persecution of Christians under the Emperor Decius, 249 to 249 to 251, the Imperial Roman government issued tickets of libelli, certificates, indicating that citizens had satisfied the pagan commissioners by performing a pagan sacrifice or burned incense, demonstrating loyalty to the authorities of the Roman Empire. The government also issued, of course, what we call these certificates of libelli, certifying that apostates had renounced Christianity. So, if I'm carrying an instrument that is only dealing with the legal system, which defines the fact that their definition of a surname that you're bearing and acting as a surety for is superior to God and his son Jesus Christ, wouldn't that be blasphemous? And would you be an apostate at that point? Do you realize this is what this is representing? There's no way I can lightly put this. If you're acting with this, you're serving it, and you're acting as a surety for it. And Satan doesn't have anybody else to do this. He needs you as the host to do this. So you join his side. So if this is correct, wouldn't this disturb your conscience now as someone who's been claiming Christianity? Is there an escape out of this? Certainly there is, but it's certainly not by energizing these things. It would have to be the opposite to this. A coming out, not a going in, and acting as a surety for something so ridiculous yet extremely blasphemous. So could we have God's protection and favor when we're doing this? Certainly not.